Hello, fight fans. Seattle Mike here. Everybody, please hit that like button, or I will tell your internet provider to slow your connection down to 56K. Make sure you're subscribed and don't forget to double tap that bell so you're notified whenever we drop a new video or go live like New Year's Eve for Ryzen 33. That's going to be an exciting one. Guys, when Jake Paul and Logan, I guess, both Paul brothers, decided they were going to get into boxing, for one thing, I didn't think I'd ever be talking about it or ever be covering any of it. Jake Paul, he's gotten the better career of the two brothers, I think. He can punch. He's done a few things. There's some people that like him, some people that say, he has some discipline. Definitely some people that don't like him. I'm sure there's a lot of boxers that don't like him. But is Jake Paul bad for boxing? Well, I think there's arguments on both sides. And I just want to look at the facts. The average boxer in 2021 makes $2,200 a match. $2,200. There are very few boxers that are making over $30,000 a year, and that's veterans. Some are fighting 4 to 5 times per year. In fact, IBF featherweight champion Kiko Martinez, he's been boxing for 17 years. He's 35 years old now. Like I said, he's the IBF featherweight champion. He's one of the top featherweights in the world. Just got his highest purse of his entire career, $400,000 in his rematch with Carl Frampton. It was their second fight. He defeated Carl Frampton. That's the biggest purse he's ever gotten. Jake Paul's getting, millions of dollars from Showtime for showing up for, his second, his third fight. The guy has not obviously fought a whole lot. The guy has been involved in a ton of controversy from showing a dead body in Japan in the suicide forest. I know that upset a lot of people, including myself. I thought it was very, just being a punk. Just being a punk. You don't do that. It's not cool. And then, arrests for disorderly conduct, for partying, having his house raided and guns taken out of there in connection with some protests. And we never really did get the full story out of that, but we know the FBI raided his house, pulled some guns out of there, and the kid was just wiling out. Both Paul brothers, but especially Jake, just wiling out. People are like, wow, is this kid going to end up in jail? What's going to go on? And then all of a sudden he's fighting another YouTuber. His brother fights another YouTuber, and we're like, hey, we don't like this. This is our sport, and why are these guys getting paid, and ridiculous amounts of money and getting all this attention for something that they don't know how to do? It was very frustrating for boxing fans, especially for fans like myself. When I'm looking at all the great boxers that are out there nowadays. We've talked about just the lightweight division with George Kambosos Jr., recently defeating the great Teofimo Lopez, who defeated Valentin Lomachenko. You got Devin Haney out there. You got Gervonta Tank Davis. That's just one division. Ryan Garcia, all in the same division. And then, of course, we just had Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3. Absolutely one of the best heavyweight bouts of all time. And there's a lot of skill out there in boxing. And I just feel like a lot of these fighters are not getting their just due. Of course, like Kiko Martinez. Like I said, this guy's been fighting for 17 years. He's 35-4. He's one of the best featherweights on the planet. And he has a net worth listed as $1 million. Jake Paul gets more than that for one fight. As we've seen, I think he got a couple million for the first Tyron Woodley fight. Now, the other side of this is a lot of people are saying that boxing has been good for the Paul brothers. Jake Paul's became disciplined. Logan always been kind of known as the nicer brother, but that this has really been good for them. They've gotten disciplined down on their diet, on their exercise regime, and Jake Paul just also kind of kind of said, hey, it saved me from going down a wrong path. So I mean that's a cool story to hear. But when the fighters that we all know and love are not getting their just due, like a lot of people still wouldn't know who Caleb Plant was if he hadn't gotten his shot against Canelo Alvarez. Still a young fighter, Caleb Plant, a ridiculous talent. That guy's ridiculously talented. I mean, I know he lost to Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez ranked as top pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, though. I think he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. Actually, I would be surprised if he doesn't. Then you hear things out of the Paul brothers like the donations. Jake Paul giving money to Sarah Alpar's GoFundMe fund. Sarah Alpar is a UFC fighter that put a GoFundMe out there that said, hey, I'm not being paid enough for my purses to be able to afford my training camp. She's like, not only am I not making a living as a fighter, she's like, I can't even pay for a proper training camp. She said, I think if I can have a proper training camp, I could be a champion one day. Well, she might be the only one in the world that thinks that is going to be a champion. Sarah Alpar, not exactly, a household name, and I don't think ever will be. And I think it was kind of a slap to Dana White when Jake Paul donated to her GoFundMe fund. But something that was a little quieter that I didn't even realize the extent of this until not that long ago. So August 29th, let's look at the boxing purses for the Ohio. This is from the first Tyron Woodley fight that Jake Paul fought in. And you can see the purses here, Paul, $2.8 million. Yeah, that's a ton of money. There's guys, I mean, that's George Kambosos Jr. just only made, I think he made $1.3 million. I don't even think Teofimo Lopez made $2.8 million for that fight. And I know he only made $1 million against Lomachenko. So, I mean, I know I say only, but when you're going to put it in perspective for, what these people have done for their career, it seems pretty ridiculous that Jake Paul is going to get paid $2.8 million. We all know he's not getting paid based on those boxing skills. Tyron Woodley, of course, former UFC champion, got $850,000 purse. Now, that's one of the first things that I looked at and thought, that's just not a good look. Even though there's not anything going on. So Jake Paul donated $1 million of his purse. So other fighters on the card that he felt weren't getting paid fairly would go home with more money in their pocket. I thought that was incredible. I thought that was absolutely incredible. The fact that he gave his own opponent $220,000, though. I mean, Tyron was making $630. Jake gave him another $220. Really bad look, in my opinion. Really, really bad. You got Taylor, the guy that fought against Tyson Fury. Look at the discrepancy on that. Tommy Fury got paid $722,000 to fight a bum, and that's all he fights. I mean, nothing against Taylor, but I mean, Tommy Fury does not fight guys that have winning records. He just doesn't. The guy's not a top heavyweight, and how in the hell he tricked somebody into paying him $772,000, I have no idea. But it's ridiculous. But for those that watched the co-main event of this, you had Amanda Serrano, one of the top pound-for-pound women in the world, taking on Mercado. This Mercado lady, too, she was tough as hell. She got paid $16,000. $16,000 Mercado did, and she was in the co-main event for this big thing. So Jake pushed her an extra $50,000. That was pretty awesome. Amanda Serrano, I said $42,000, one of the top pound for pound women's fighters in the world. And Jake really made a statement with this. He gave her $500,000 of his purse because he's like, hey, this is what you're worth. You're worth that much more than this. I thought that was really cool. The fight between Bronchick and Love at $30,000 and $50,000 apiece. Dubois from Great Britain took home $200,000. He said he didn't want any money from Jake Paul. I mean, obviously he doesn't need as much. He had a $200,000 purse, but if somebody's offering me $50,000, he said he didn't want it because he's friends with Tommy Fury. I don't care who my friend is. It does me no good to not take $50,000 because you don't like my friend. I don't care if you like my friend or not. If you're going to give me $50,000, I like you, or I'm going to at least pretend to like it until the check clears. I said, his opponent that was getting $29,000 got an extra $50,000. Then you got Conwell getting another $40,000, Rubio another $10,000. You see the bottom of the card here. This is a pay-per-view card, and you have fighters making $8,000. There's nobody in the UFC making $8,000. There's still fighters making 15, and not that long ago they were making 12. But everybody wants to talk about the discrepancy between the UFC and boxing. Boxing's very top-heavy. A lot of these cards, there's a lot of fighters that don't make a lot of money. Like I said, there's a lot of fighters out there, making $2,000 or even less. And that's why it can be a slap in the face to a lot of these fighters to see Jake Paul come in, get these kind of purses, and to fans that, they want to see the Sean Porter versus Terrence Crawford. They want to see that, Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos Jr. Those kinds of fights getting the spotlight. And, not this YouTube kid. I mean, before Jake Paul landed that shot against Tyron Woodley in that second fight, that was a horrible fight. It was absolutely horrible. And the first fight was horrible. To charge $60 for that second fight for pay-per-view, absolute robbery. And if Showtime would just put on a $60 pay-per-view, for the Gervonta Davis fight, or, some of these other guys out there even better. Kiko Martinez, this guy's a really entertaining fighter. He could make some cash, and, we wouldn't have to see somebody who's just an amateur boxer still fighting against pros. Tyron Woodley's, he was not a striker in the UFC. His boxing, never matched up like a boxer. I know a lot of people, including myself, make excuses for why Jake Paul wins every time. I'm going to give him credit. He landed a good shot. He landed a good shot. Before that happened, the fight was dog shit. But he landed a good shot. He's blasted a couple guys. He did it to Ben Askren. I don't think he's going to do that to Anderson Silva, even though Anderson Silva is 46 years old. But he brings eyes to the sport. He's definitely bringing eyes to the sport. And he's over there on Showtime. Now Jake Paul's talking about doing MMA. So he could potentially do boxing and MMA with Bellator, since they're both under the Showtime umbrella. Bellator's on Showtime now. It's owned by Viacom, the same company. And who knows? But what do you guys think? Is Jake Paul, Logan Paul, are they good for boxing? Are they bad for boxing? Are they just taking advantage of an obvious situation that anyone would, including myself? Now, let me know what you guys think down there, though. Are you fans? Are you not fans? Do you just completely despise these guys? Let me know down there in the comments. I will be doing a Christmas stream, so look forward to that. And don't forget about the January 22nd giveaway for the Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane fight. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses next time.